All right, and we are back here on the GSMC football podcast. And for the final part of the show, we're just going to look at the updated standings after week 7. So we'll start off in the AFC. So after this week, the Dolphins currently hold a 1-game lead over the Bills. Dolphins at 5-2, Bills 4-3, Jets 3-3, Patriots picked up a win against the Bills, 2-5 now on the season. I mean, again, I think it's going to come down to that final game of the regular season between the Dolphins and the Bills. I mean, I still like the Bills to win the division. I don't feel great about it. But, I mean, last year they went into Miami and they lost. The offense just looks – the offense has not been good the last couple of weeks. It really is just – it's been dormant the first 3 quarters, and then they finally wake up. That's a problem. And, the Dolphins, I talked about it earlier briefly. Against good teams on the road, they've struggled this year. But it's definitely going to be between these two teams for the division, I think. I mean, the Jets are 3-3. So, they're a game and a half back. They got an outside chance, but, I don't look at them as, winning the division here. I mean, listen, they beat Buffalo already. They play Miami on Black Friday. I think that's the first time they play them. Yeah, that is the first time they play them. So, and that's a home game, and the Jets are good at home. So we'll see. But I think right now you look at the Dolphins and the Bills as the top 2 teams that are going to be fighting for the division. I think it's going to come down to the last game of the regular season, and I hope it does, because that would be really exciting. So now we move on to the AFC North. So, obviously I just talked about the Ravens. Right now they're 5-2. They lead the way, half game up on the Steelers and the Browns. Bengals are currently in last place, a game and a half back. Listen, for the Steelers and the Browns, I still look at them as teams that are going to be fighting for the wild card. Browns, they got a big win over the Colts. That was a game they could have easily lost, but they were able to pull it out. They're at 4-2. Steelers 4-2 after winning that huge game against the Rams. They play the Jags at home this week. Browns are going to be at Seattle this week. There's actually no byes on week 8, which I thought was interesting. But yeah, and then you got the Bengals who are going to be playing against the 49ers, so that's not going to be easy. So if the Ravens win, Bengals lose, the Bengals are going to be 2.5 games back. And I could definitely see that happening. So I think ultimately it's going to be between the Bengals and the Ravens. Let's see. Yeah, so the Ravens, they finish up the season against the Steelers. Bengals end up finishing the season against the Browns at home. So we'll see how it goes. But, right now, I still like the Bengals to win the division, but it's going to be really tough. But, yeah, the Ravens currently lead that at the moment. In the South, looks like the Jags are going to run away with this thing. I did say, a couple weeks ago or on one of the past shows that no one's really running away with the South. The Jags, they've found their groove the last couple weeks. And, especially with Anthony Richardson going down, Tannehill getting injured now for the Titans, and they actually just traded their safety Kevin Byard to the Eagles, so they're selling off guys, so they're out of it. The Texans have already beaten the Jags, so and they're a game and a half back, so they're still in it. Every team is still technically in it, but I think the Jags, they've looked like themselves, like how they're supposed to be the last couple of weeks, and it's ultimately going to be their division. So. They're 5-2. Texans are 3-3. But yeah, Jags, that's going to be their division. Then we go to the AFC West. Again, just another week of the same thing. Kansas City Chiefs are 6-1. Raiders, they looked really bad, losing to the Bears. 3-4 now. Chargers 2-4 after losing to the Chiefs. Broncos actually picked up a win against the Packers, and they play the Chiefs this week. But yeah, nothing really changed drastically in the division. Chiefs are still in first place, And I mean, they're going to run away with this thing. They are running away with this thing. But is it really a surprise? Not really. The defense is playing very well. But actually, news with the Chiefs, though. So Nick Bolton got hurt in the game, and he's actually going to miss, I think they said, like 6 weeks with a wrist injury. Yeah, so it says roughly 2 months as I'm looking on CBS. And that's a huge loss for them because he's been a good player for them, their young linebacker. So hopefully he gets back for them because they're gonna need him. And then also, actually, another thing, Justin Ross, their receiver, he actually got arrested yesterday. He faces a felony charge of criminal damage of more than $25,000. This is what NFL Network reported. And they were expecting big things out of him, and that's just not something that you like to hear. So that's just some news on the Chiefs front. But yeah, they're 6-1. They continue to roll, and right now they have the best record in the AFC. And then we move on to the NFC side of things. The Eagles are currently 6-1. They got that win against the Dolphins. The Cowboys had a bye week. They're 4-2, game and a half back. I mean, right now the Eagles are going to win the division. Cowboys probably get a wild card. Washington's 3-4, Giants 2-5. Hey, the Giants, they showed you they have a pulse. That point differential is just so bad, though. 85 points they've scored this year. Their opponents have scored 174 points against them. It's terrible. Terrible. I mean, they won, but they won 14-7. And they scored their first touchdown at home. First 2 touchdowns at home last week. It's awful. Well, this past week, that's awful. Yeah, because look, they got shut out against the Cowboys. They scored 3 points against the Seahawks, and then you win. Against the Commanders, you scored 2 touchdowns. Now you go up against the Jets this week. So we'll see. I mean, listen, I think the game could be close. I mean, am I going to be surprised if the Giants get blown out? No. But for me, the defense has been playing really well. And, they're going up against a Jets team, which they have a very good defense, and their defense can force turnovers. But you know what? Giants' defense has been forcing turnovers as well. And they're going up against a quarterback that, listen, he's kept the Jets afloat for the moment, and the Jets can't make the playoffs with their defense and running game, but they could force Zach Wilson into making mistakes, and maybe the Giants steal that game. Because the gauntlet part of their schedule is over. There's a lot of winnable games on that schedule. I shouldn't say a lot, but a decent amount. Because I don't think they'll beat Dallas, and they play Philly twice, in the last 3 weeks. Those are both losses. Because they just can't beat Philly. And we got to watch them on Christmas. That's going to ruin my Christmases watching the Giants. We had to watch them on Thanksgiving against Dallas last year. Now we got to watch them against the Eagles on Christmas. I mean, come on. Why do you got to do this? Whatever. So let's get into the NFC North. Lions, I mean, listen, that was a bad loss for them, but I think ultimately they're going to win the division. It's their division to lose. Vikings, 3-4 now. They've passed the Packers. They've passed the Bears. Listen, that was a big win against the Niners. And, listen, you get Justin Jefferson back, and you're still in the conversation for the playoffs. I mean, the Vikings could definitely sneak in as the last wild card. And I love how I'm saying this after it looks like they're in for a lost season. Well, now after one game, you're like, well, they got a chance to make the playoffs now. So, but that's what happens from week to week. But yeah, the Lions I think will win the division. Vikings probably fight for a wild card. Packers, I mean, I thought they could maybe get a wild card. Not looking like that right now. They look really bad, especially on offense. The NFC South. Who is going to win that? I have no idea. Because the Bucs, they beat the Saints. Falcons beat the Bucks. Like I don't know. The Saints don't look great. I mean, you would think the Saints with their talent, they would be in first place, but they just don't look good. Derek Carr hasn't looked good. He's not on the same page with his receivers. I mean, they're just dumping it off to Kamara, like I was talking about last week. And actually, Chris Olave, he was in the news for the wrong reasons. He was arrested last night for reckless driving. I think it was like on a motorcycle. Yeah, yep. So yeah, we'll see what happens with that. I mean, I'm assuming he's not, going to play on Sunday. I'd be surprised if that happened. But that's just another thing to have to deal with, But yeah, Saints are 3-4 right now. Falcons 4-3, surprisingly. I mean, I didn't even mention it yesterday. I mean, Desmond Ridder didn't throw any interceptions, but he had like 3 fumbles. I don't think he's the answer at quarterback for the Falcons. That's something they're going to have to figure out. Because, I mean, you look at this roster, and now they're also looking into why Bijan Robinson wasn't playing at all during the game, and then towards the end he came back in the game. Like what happened there? I mean, but anyways, this team is, on paper is good. They got a good roster. It's just they need a quarterback. And Desmond Ridder just does not look like the guy. But the Falcons are 4-3. It's a bad division. Anybody can win it. I mean, the Panthers, right now, they have no shot because they're 0-6. And I honestly was thinking about picking them as the favorite to win the division for me. Because, I don't know, I didn't really like the Falcons. The Bucks, they weren't that good last year. And I didn't know how Baker was going to play. And the Saints, I just really didn't trust them with Derek Carr because he wasn't really that good last year. But Panthers have been bad. They're 0-6. Record-wise, they're the worst team in football. I don't look at them as the worst team in football. But record-wise, they are. Honestly, after this week, I don't even know who the worst team because the Broncos, the Giants, and the Patriots all won. So, but yeah, I don't know who's going to win the South. Let me know. Who do you think is going to win the South? Because I have no idea. Then we look at the NFC West. Niners are 5-2, so they still hold the lead there. Seahawks are a half game back at 4-2. Rams are 3-4. Cardinals are 1-6. Niners are still going to win the division. They're still going to have a top 2 seed in the NFC. I believe that. They're just going through a rough stretch right now, but definitely again something to be concerned about a little bit with the injuries and how Brock Purdy's been turning the ball over the last 2 games, but I think they're better than all these teams in the division. Seattle, I look at them as a wild card team. Rams, same thing. So let's go through the wild card really quickly. So the Steelers, the Browns, and the Bills all hold wild card spots. Bills have the last wild card spot at the moment. That's so weird to look at. And then you got the Texans, the Jets, and the Bengals all 1 game back. Colts, Raiders, Titans. Colts and Raiders are 1.5 games back. Titans and Chargers are 2 games back. Broncos and Patriots are 2.5 games back. Yeah, Bills got to be careful because, they lose again. They might find themselves on the outside looking in for the moment. And they play on Thursday against the Bucks at home. So we'll see what happens. But yeah, that's the wild card in the AFC right now. Then the NFC, you got the Seahawks, the Cowboys, and the Bucks holding wild card spots. Vikings, Rams, Commanders, and Saints are all a game and a half back. Packers are 2 games back. Giants are 2.5 games back. Bears are 2.5 games back. Cardinals are 3.5. Panthers are 4. Cardinals and Panthers. Bears. Sorry, Giants, but you guys too. And the Packers. So a lot of these teams, I don't really look at them as teams that are really going to be fighting for a playoff spot based off of how they're playing and what their records are. So all the teams that are 3-4, those are the teams right now you got to focus on. And now if those teams win next week, some of those teams maybe and they close the gap a little bit, then we might be having a different conversation. But right now the teams that are a game and a half back, those are the ones you got to focus on for that final wild card spot because the Bucks are 3-3 and they could lose this week against the Bills. So that's pretty much it with the current standings. And with that, that is all the time that we have for today. I thank you guys for watching. Make sure to like, comment, and subscribe. And we'll be back again tomorrow talking some more football. And so I'm going to go record the Patreon portion now of the show. So, as always, I'm Kenneth Grunfelder signing off from the GSMC Football Podcast brought to you by the GSMC Sports Network. Have a good day, and I'll see you guys tomorrow.